My name was Ahmad. I was a Mufti, a title that commands respect and authority in our tightly knit community. At 35, I led prayers during Eid, surrounded by faithful souls who looked to me for spiritual guidance. But while the mosque thrummed with celebration, a storm churned within me, an unease that begged for attention. I stood before my congregation, words escaping my lips, yet I felt an inexplicable void growing deeper, a chasm between duty and truth. As I recited the verses, a sense of disconnection washed over me. I questioned the very foundations of my faith, echoing whispered doubts lodged in the corners of my mind, increasingly at odds with the traditions I had vowed to uphold. Through the haze of ritual, I began to have dreams, vivid encounters with a luminescent presence who beckoned me toward an awakening far beyond my understanding. Then came that day, the moment that altered the trajectory of my life forever. In a quiet instant after the prayers, I transcended this world and found myself in a dark desert. There, standing amidst the shadows, was Jesus. He called my name, piercing through my skepticism and illuminating the falsehoods woven into the fabric of our belief systems. What I learned that day shattered my understanding of faith and revealed a far-reaching spiritual battle, one that waged against the very souls of humanity. But the awakening did not come without cost. Upon returning from that transcendent experience, I faced the wrath of my community. Accusations of heresy rang in my ears, sending jolts of fear down my spine. As I navigated the storm of dissent, I was met with hostility from those I had once called brothers. My heart ached for the familiar, yet something deep inside urged me forward. So began my quest for truth, hidden from the very ones who had raised me. I pored over sacred texts, scouring the depths of the Bible, uncovering revelations that resonated with my newfound spirit. Isolated but not defeated, I sought solace in the whispers of others who knew the struggle. A small circle of seekers in our city, united by a desire for genuine connection and shared faith. Now, I stand at a crossroads, awakened to a divine mission, a calling to share the light I discovered with others still trapped in shadows. And today, I invite you to join me on this journey. Before we dive deeper, I want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from right now, and what time is it? Please leave a comment below. And if you're seeking the truth that transforms, subscribe now to Truth from Beyond. This isn't merely a story, it's a profound revelation waiting to unfold. Are you ready to embrace it? As I stood at the front of the vibrant mosque in Manchester leading the Eid prayers, the atmosphere was charged with spiritual celebration. The joy of the community was palpable, and yet, beneath the surface I sensed a tension among some attendees. I am a Mufti, dedicated to guiding my community in faith, and yet, I couldn't help but notice the flicker of doubt in their eyes. As I led the congregation in prayer, I felt an unsettling emptiness growing within me. Despite the profound occasion, a part of me was overshadowed by the questions I had been too afraid to voice. In the weeks leading up to Eid, I had struggled with an internal conflict, questioning the very beliefs I had dedicated my life to. It felt as if I were grasping for something more, but I couldn't quite identify what that was. During the prayer, while the congregation chanted, my mind wandered to the promises of faith and the teachings I held dear. I began to ponder whether some of these teachings served a hidden agenda, one that betrayed the essence of what spirituality should be. Was it possible that the elite, those in power, were manipulating our beliefs to maintain control over the masses? Suddenly, a wave of fatigue washed over me. As I closed my eyes, the words of the prayer began to fade, and I felt myself transcending the physical space around me. I slipped into darkness, far removed from the warmth of the mosque, and in that void I felt an overwhelming presence. Within moments, a brilliant light emerged, and standing before me was Jesus, radiant and full of compassion. He called my name with a voice that resonated deeply within my soul. In that instant, all my doubts fell away. It was as if the truth itself had been revealed to me. Jesus began to share with me revelations that shook my understanding of faith and the world. He unveiled the spiritual war that raged not only within my heart but throughout society, illuminating the deceptions that had rooted themselves deeply in our cultures. I realized that the struggles I faced were part of a larger pattern, one where political and spiritual leaders perpetuated chaos to wield power. As I absorbed these insights, I became acutely aware of how the fear of division and conflict had allowed this manipulation to fester unchecked. As he spoke, I felt an urgency igniting within me. The deeper truths Jesus revealed about the hidden agendas of those in power consumed my thoughts. I understood that I could no longer remain silent about what I had experienced. The revelation that transformed my own doubts and fears dawned upon me. The truth has the power to awaken others from their complacency. I emerged from that encounter with Jesus knowing that my life had to change, and that I had to embrace my calling to shine a light into the darkness enveloping our communities. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but I was determined to fight for the truth, ready to help guide others on their own journeys of awakening, no matter the cost. I'm Ahmad, a 35-year-old Mufti and community leader in Manchester. For years, I've been looked up to as a source of wisdom and authority within my mosque. Charisma and confidence define my role. When I lead prayers, the congregation reveres me, and I've always taken great pride in guiding others in their spiritual journeys. Yet, amid this facade of strength, I felt an increasing emptiness gnawing at my soul. Deep inside, a conflict brewed, one that left me feeling unfulfilled despite my commitment to my faith and responsibilities. The emptiness became impossible to ignore, especially as I engaged more deeply in my religious duties. I remember sitting alone in my office after leading yet another successful gathering, the sound of prayer humming in my ears. I should have felt fulfilled, but instead, I felt detached from the very teachings I tried to embody. I started questioning everything, wondering whether the rituals and commitments that had once brought me joy simply masked a deeper dissatisfaction. I began to suspect that perhaps our understanding of spirituality came with a hidden agenda, one that kept us trapped within rigid structures that stifled true connection with the divine. One evening, while preparing for the Eid prayer, I felt a darkness slowly enveloping me. It was as if a heavy fog had descended upon my mind and heart. As I led the prayer, words flowed, but my spirit felt distant. It was in that moment of disconnection that I found myself spiraling into a profound state of unawareness. Suddenly, everything around me faded away, and I was thrust into an experience that transcended the ordinary, a near-death experience that would ultimately alter my course forever. In this transcendent state, I encountered Jesus. Radiating light and compassion, his presence filled the void that had lingered within me for so long. When he called my name, I felt an overwhelming wave of warmth wash over me. Jesus began to reveal truths that shattered the illusions I had been holding on to. He illuminated the spiritual war we face, not just within ourselves, but collectively as humanity. I saw visions of how the elite manipulate fear and division, using deception to keep us from recognizing our shared humanity. The realization that my community was caught in a web of lies caused my heart to race. I understood then that the very structures I had dedicated my life to could be tools of control rather than pathways to liberation. With each revelation, an urgency surged within me. My life had to change. I could no longer accept the spiritual suffocation I felt, nor could I stand by while others remained blind to the deception surrounding them. The experience awakened a fire within, pushing me to confront my fears and challenge the narratives that dictated our lives. I knew I must share these insights to guide others towards their own awakening. It was time to speak out, despite the risks, and help others see past the shadows that obscured the truth. The thought of a world united in awakening was intoxicating, and as I returned to my physical form, I felt empowered to fight for that vision, ready to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. During the Eid prayer, I stood in front of my congregation, the familiar rhythm of the words rolling off my tongue, but something felt profoundly off. I'm Ahmad, a respected Mufti, yet as I recited the prayers, a wave of disconnection washed over me. It was as if the words had become hollow, devoid of the spirit they were meant to convey. I scanned the faces of my community, expecting to feel the usual sense of unity and devotion, but what I saw filled me with unease. Beneath the joyous celebration, I sensed an undercurrent of doubt and confusion, not just in myself, but reflected in the eyes of those around me. The tension I felt grew stronger as I continued the prayers, and soon my thoughts wandered. Questions I had long suppressed began to claw their way to the surface. What was the true origin of my faith? Were the teachings I had dedicated my life to truly connected to the divine, or were they simply constructs of human invention, wrapped in layers of hidden agendas? The thought that religion might be a tool for manipulation rather than a genuine path to spiritual truth sent chills down my spine. I felt the weight of these doubts bearing down on me, clouding my spirit. As I completed the prayer, I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, trying to regain my center. But instead of peace, I was plunged into darkness, a void that felt familiar yet terrifying. In that moment of stillness, I slipped into an extraordinary experience, a near-death state that transcended anything I had ever known. Suddenly before me stood Jesus, shining with an indescribable light, radiating love and acceptance. When he called my name, I felt all my reservations fall away like layers of a heavy burden. In this surreal encounter, Jesus began to reveal profound truths that shattered the illusions I had clung to. He opened my eyes to the spiritual war we all face, a battle against the deceptions that hold humanity captive. I witnessed scenes of chaos and division across the globe, seeing how the elite manipulate faith and politics to foster fear, maintaining a hidden agenda designed to keep us from realizing our collective power. It was a revelation that forever altered my understanding of the world. I realized that my challenges, my questions, were part of a much larger struggle for truth and awakening. When I returned to consciousness, the world around me felt strangely altered. The doubts that had once paralyzed me were now coupled with an undeniable fire of purpose. I understood that I could no longer remain silent, that sharing my experience was crucial, not just for my own healing, but for the liberation of others caught in the same cycle of confusion. I faced the risks of rejection from my community, but the urgency to speak out about the deception that the elite perpetuate drove me forward. My awakening had just begun, and I was ready to confront the challenges ahead, determined to shine a light in the darkness that enveloped so many. As the nights passed, I found myself haunted by vivid dreams that blurred the lines between reality and something more profound. My name is Ahmad, and I am a Mufti, deeply embedded in my role as a spiritual leader in Manchester. I've dedicated my life to guiding others on their spiritual journeys, yet lately, an unsettling feeling of emptiness gnawed at my heart. It was during these dreams that I encountered a luminous presence resembling Jesus, shining with a light so brilliant it felt as if the universe itself had been condensed into a single point of divine clarity. Each time he called my name, a wave of comfort washed over me, as if I were being reminded of a long-lost truth. In these encounters, Jesus began revealing truths about the religious systems that shape our beliefs. He illuminated the ways in which these institutions often manipulate and control their followers, shining a light on the hidden agendas that underpin our communities. Each revelation was like a thread pulled from the fabric of my understanding, unraveling the facade I had believed in for so long. I learned how the elite have orchestrated a spiritual war, deceitfully fostering conflicts and divisions among us to maintain power and control over society. The realization struck me like a thunderbolt. It was not merely my faith that had been manipulated, but the very foundation of the religion I had held dear. As I listened to Jesus' words, I felt the urgency of this message sink deep into my soul. His presence challenged me to confront the internal unrest that had been festering within. How could I continue to lead a community while ignoring the unsettling truths that were surfacing? I grappled with my own beliefs, feeling the conflict between my loyalty to tradition and the awakening I was experiencing. I began to understand the deceptive narratives that had governed not just my life, but the lives of those around me. The tension was palpable, and the fear of rejection loomed large, yet the desire to share this revelation overpowered my apprehensions. These dreams became a catalyst for my transformation. I found myself waking up not just with lingering images of Jesus' light, but with an orientation toward action. The truths he revealed compelled me to dig deeper into the teachings I had followed for years. I began to research the core messages of Christianity, eager to understand the wider spiritual implications of Jesus' life and sacrifice. Each new discovery etched itself into my heart, further guiding me toward a mission of awakening. I felt a growing sense of responsibility not just to share my story, but to confront the challenges that lay ahead. Despite the fear of backlash from my community, I realized this was a journey I could no longer undertake in silence. I began engaging in conversations with friends, discussing the tension between faith and truth, the manipulation of spirituality by those in power. The responses varied from fear to intrigue, but I recognized that this was a critical moment for many. Each sharing of my experience drew more people into the light of awareness, and I found solace in the fact that I was not alone. The spiritual war was not just mine to fight. It was a collective struggle against the forces of deception that sought to maintain control. And as I moved forward, I could feel the weight of my mission solidifying, pushing me to embrace the path of truth, ready to face whatever challenges awaited. After completing the Eid prayer, I stood in silence, feeling the weight of the moment settle over me. As the murmurs of the congregation filled the mosque, I took a deep breath, seeking some semblance of clarity. My name is Ahmad, and while I am a Mufti respected for my knowledge and guidance, I found myself grappling with an increasing sense of disconnection. It was in this quiet after the prayers, amidst the joy and celebrations, that a wave of introspection washed over me. The doubts that had been bubbling beneath the surface began to surge forth. That night, I fell into a deep meditative state, and suddenly I was no longer in the mosque. I had been transported to a desolate and dark desert. The emptiness around me was stark, and I felt a mix of both fear and curiosity as I began to wander through this unknown landscape. My heart raced, and just when despair started to creep in, a brilliant light emerged from the shadows, cutting through the darkness like a beacon of hope. As I moved toward the light, I realized it was Jesus, illuminating the wasteland around me with his presence. When he called my name, I felt an incredible sense of calm wash over me. Jesus looked at me with eyes full of compassion, and in that moment, I understood. I was there not by accident, but by divine appointment. He began to speak to me about the hidden truths that lay beneath the surface of our everyday lives. As he shared revelations, I was overwhelmed with the weight of their significance. The realization dawned on me that we are all part of a larger spiritual war, a struggle between light and darkness, truth and deception. The hidden agendas of the elite came to light. I saw how they manipulate our beliefs, using them as tools to control the masses. I watched as he revealed the deception that feeds division among us. I saw wars, conflicts, and societal strife, all rooted in the lies that keep us separate from one another. Each revelation filled me with urgency. These weren't just abstract concepts, they represented the very lived experiences of people I had known and loved. The pain they endured was painfully evident. As I stood there, further truths began to unfold, exposing how religious doctrines could often serve a hidden agenda rather than genuine spiritual guidance. When I returned to my consciousness, the world felt markedly different. The revelation I had received was a call to act. No longer could I be silent about the truths I had witnessed. There was an urgency to share my experiences, to awaken others to the realities of the spiritual war we were engaged in. The fear of backlash and rejection loomed in the back of my mind, but I also recognized that my awakening was part of a larger communal journey. Each voice could contribute to breaking the cycle of deception. I felt compelled to engage others in dialogue, to inspire a collective awakening and challenge the narratives that had held us captive for far too long. Upon my return from the experience with Jesus, I was met with an overwhelming sense of isolation. Everything had shifted for me, and yet nothing had changed in the eyes of those around me. As a Mufti, I had occupied a respected role within my community, but now I was viewed with skepticism and disdain. The moment I began to speak about my revelations, accusations of heresy pierced through the air like daggers. I felt the anger of my community directed at me, words thrown like projectiles, each one reinforcing my sense of exile from the very faith I had once proudly upheld. It was heartbreaking to feel the distance grow between me and my family. They had always looked to me for guidance, yet now they felt threatened by the very truths I had been compelled to share. My beliefs, which had once bonded us, became a source of great contention. I watched as the disappointment transformed into outrage, the disapproval morphing into verbal assaults. It seemed unfathomable that my quest for truth could evoke such anger, yet here I was, standing alone in a storm of conflicting emotions. In my moments of solitude, I replayed my encounter with Jesus in my mind, seeking the comfort of his words. He had revealed a deeper understanding of the spiritual war we are all embroiled in, a war not just within our personal lives, but stretching across the globe, affecting politics, relationships, and belief systems. The hidden agendas that the elite used to manipulate and control had become so apparent to me, and I felt an urgency to expose the deceptions that kept my community tethered in fear and ignorance. And yet, in the face of such urgency, I found myself rendered mute by fear of alienation. As I navigated this new reality, the struggles I faced only served to deepen my resolve. I understood that the journey toward awakening is often fraught with challenges, but the revelation of the truth was my guiding light. The anger directed at me turned into a catalyst for further introspection. I began to seek out others who had experienced similar awakenings, individuals who were eager to challenge the status quo. Our gatherings, however small, became a sanctuary where we could discuss the profound implications of our experiences. It was in these discussions that I began to see the potential for change, not just within myself, but also within the fabric of our community. Despite the risk of further rejection, I realized I had a responsibility to advocate for those still searching for answers. I needed to confront the fear that gripped my heart and push back against the deception that clouded our judgments. Jesus had given me the strength to stand firm in my faith, even if that faith looked different now. I felt compelled to illuminate the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it made those around me. The spiritual war was real, and I was determined to fight for those who remained unaware of the hidden agendas that sought to control us. My awakening had ignited a fire within me, one that refused to be extinguished. The journey ahead would not be easy, but it was a path I was ready to walk, emboldened by the light of truth. Secretly seeking understanding, I began to research the Bible, driven by the unsettling questions that had surfaced within me. My name is Ahmad, and I had always taken pride in my role as a Mufti, guiding my community through the tenets of Islam. Yet ever since my encounter with Jesus during Eid, the foundations of my faith felt like they were crumbling. I needed answers, and the urgent desire to uncover the truth compelled me to explore a world I'd only ever viewed from a distance. I immersed myself in readings, discovering scriptures that resonated with my internal conflicts and illuminated the fears that had begun to haunt me. Late at night, I would sit in my small office, surrounded by law books and notes, yet my attention was elsewhere, on the verses I was now poring over. The teachings were both foreign and familiar, instilling a sense of peace within me. The words of Jesus echoed in my mind, speaking to my heart and challenging the deceptions that had long governed my understanding. Those late-night studies became a lifeline, drawing me closer to an awakening I could no longer ignore. Each passage I read chipped away at the fear I had surrounding the hidden agendas of those in power, illuminating the spiritual war we're all part of. Eventually, my search led me to online testimonies and videos, people sharing their spiritual journeys, recounting their own encounters with Jesus. Each story peeled back layers of doubt and uncertainty, allowing me to connect with those who had faced similar struggles. It was empowering to witness the transformation in others. I found solace in their triumphs over fear and societal expectations. The urgency in their voices resonated with my own plight, reinforcing my convictions and igniting a fire deep within me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was part of something much larger, a movement toward truth that transcended my personal journey. It was during one of these online explorations that I stumbled upon a small group of individuals who met to discuss their spiritual awakenings. They welcomed me with open arms, and within this supportive community, I felt safe to express my concerns and confusions. We gathered in quiet corners of the internet, sharing insights about the manipulation of faith and the larger context of our awakening. As our conversations deepened, I felt a profound shift within. We began to connect the dots between our experiences and the manipulative tactics of the elite, leaders who, with their hidden agendas, sought to instill division among us under a veil of deception. The weight of the revelation that enveloped me during these discussions was overwhelming. I felt an urgent responsibility to raise awareness among others in my community who remained unaware of the truths lurking behind their rituals. We spoke of the need to navigate these treacherous waters together, challenging the narratives that had kept us bound in ignorance. As the truth poured out, I was reminded of my encounter with Jesus and the love he represented, a love that transcended all barriers and the spiritual war that was underway. It was time for collective awakening, and I was determined to be a voice in that fight, ready to engage with those who yearned for understanding, hoping to awaken their own spirits to the light of truth. As I began to recognize my experiences for what they truly were, a divine calling, I felt a storm of emotions surge within me. I'm Ahmad, a Mufti respected in my community, dedicated to guiding others through their spiritual journeys. Yet, my encounter with Jesus during the Eid prayer transformed everything. I had always thought that my role was to uphold tradition and guide my community based on established teachings. But now I felt an undeniable pull to share the truth I discovered, even as the risks to my reputation and safety loomed large. After returning from my near-death experience, the truths Jesus revealed to me echoed relentlessly in my mind. I had seen the hidden agendas and manipulation, how the elite orchestrated a spiritual war that kept people ignorant and fearful. The clarity of his message pushed me toward action. I could no longer stand idly by, reciting prayers while knowing that many in my congregation were caught in cycles of deception. My heart ached for those who still clung to beliefs that truly limited their understanding of faith and community. The internal conflict weighed heavily on me. My commitment to sharing these revelations meant risking everything I had built, a life steeped in tradition, trust, and respect. What would my family say if they understood the shift in my belief? Would my community accept me, or would I be branded a heretic? Each day brought a mix of fear and determination as I contemplated the path before me. The safety of silence and conformity whispered to me, but Jesus' call was louder, urging me to embody the truth I had encountered. I began to gather courage, sharing my experience with close friends who had shown signs of questioning their beliefs. I would recount the insights I gained in that dark desert, the love and empowerment I felt from Jesus. Their reactions varied from intrigue to skepticism, but I was determined to plant the seeds of awakening. Our conversations often drifted into discussions about the societal structures and religious doctrines that serve a hidden agenda, one that manipulates and divides us under the guise of faith. As I continued to share, I realized that this mission was about more than me. It was about guiding others through their spiritual war. There was a collective awakening waiting to happen, one that could dismantle the layers of deception that had settled over us for so long. I felt a growing responsibility to advocate for truth, even if it meant standing against the tides of tradition. I knew the journey wouldn't be easy, but I was prepared to fight for the light of truth, ready to face the challenges and opposition that lay ahead. In an act of courage that felt both terrifying and liberating, I decided to leave my position at the mosque. I am Ahmad, and I had devoted years of my life to my role as a Mufti. But after my profound encounter with Jesus, I knew I couldn't continue down a path that no longer resonated with the revelations I had received. The weight of tradition and expectation pressed heavily upon me, smothering the spiritual awakening that would not let me go. I changed my name, a symbolic shedding of my former identity, embracing a new purpose rooted in truth and love. As I stepped out into the streets of Manchester, the vibrant city pulsed with life around me. I felt a mix of excitement and fear, Knowing that I was embarking on a mission that would challenge both me and the community I had known for so long, my intention was clear: to evangelize and spread hope among those yearning for spiritual freedom. There was a force greater than myself driving me forward, urging me to share the revelations that had reshaped my understanding of faith and community. In those early days, I spoke to anyone who would listen: friends, strangers, anyone feeling the stirrings of doubt similar to those I had experienced. Every interaction was charged with urgency. I talked about the spiritual war we're all engaged in, using Jesus' teachings to shed light on the hidden agendas of the elite. I shared how deception manipulates our views, creating divisions that keep us from embracing our shared humanity. The more I spoke, the more I realized that the truths I uncovered resonated deeply with so many souls searching for meaning. As I delved deeper into my mission, I saw the profound impact my words could have on others. People were awakening, grappling with their own struggles against societal expectations and manipulation. I began to witness transformations in my community that filled me with hope. Those who had once felt isolated were now united in their quest for understanding. I felt empowered to advocate for those who remained shackled by fear and ignorance, knowing that my journey mirrored theirs in many ways. However, embracing this new life was not without its challenges. The fear of rejection hung over me like a cloud, especially from my family. I still longed for their understanding, but I knew that this path required sacrifice. Each time I felt doubt creeping in, I reminded myself of my purpose. The revelations I had received were not just for me. They were meant to uplift and inspire a deeper awakening in others. I stood ready to face the challenges ahead, committed to spreading the truth that had transformed my life, even if it meant navigating the complexities of my past and confronting the reality of the spiritual war raging around us. Years later, I stood as a passionate missionary, dedicated to spreading the revelations I had received during my encounter with Jesus. My journey since that pivotal moment had transformed me into something beyond what I ever imagined I could be. The empty void I once felt was now filled with purpose as I worked tirelessly to empower others, fostering a new community of faith rooted in truth and awakening. I remember the warmth of those early days, gathering people from all walks of life who were also seeking answers. Together we discovered the transformative power of spiritual exploration. Despite the joy I found in this new mission, the hope of reconciling with my family and society tugged at my heart. The estrangement I experienced after sharing my truth continued to be a source of pain. I knew my family struggled to understand my shift in belief, and I often longed for the acceptance I once took for granted. Yet, through the struggles, I remained focused on the purpose Jesus had unveiled to me. I believed that this mission was not only about my awakening, but also about bringing others into the light of truth and helping them escape the deception that so many had fallen victim to. The challenges of this journey were significant. I encountered hostility and skepticism, particularly from those entrenched in their beliefs. Many viewed my testimony as a threat to the established order. I often felt the weight of disapproval from people I respected, but I kept pushing forward, empowered by the hope that my experiences could lead others towards spiritual freedom. I understood that the spiritual war we all engaged in required courage and conviction. Each conversation, each gathering, became an opportunity to plant seeds of awakening and challenge the hidden agendas that sought to manipulate our perceptions of spirituality. As I reached out to those who felt lost, I shared the profound revelations about the manipulation orchestrated by the elite. The truths about their deception, the way they sow conflict and maintain control, had to be spoken. I spoke passionately about the consequences of complacency in the face of ignorance, urging others to awaken to their true potential. I became dedicated to creating a safe space where people could express their doubts, fears, and aspirations. Together, we explored the intersections of our beliefs and the broader implications of our spiritual journeys. In those moments of sharing, I felt an overwhelming sense of unity. We were becoming a community bound not just by faith, but by shared experiences of struggle and awakening. As I shared the teachings of Jesus, the emphasis on love, acceptance, and truth permeated our gatherings. We understood that our mission was not merely about exposing deception. It was about cultivating compassion and understanding among each other. I hoped that through this community I might also find a path back to my family. I envisioned a day when I could stand before them, not as a pariah, but as a beacon of the love and spiritual evolution I had come to embrace. As I stand here today, recalling my journey from doubt to revelation, I must ask you, have you felt that stirring inside you? That undeniable voice beckoning you toward a deeper truth, past the rituals and the fear that binds us all? Because you are not alone. I, Ahmad, once a respected Mufti, am walking proof that the awakening to our shared humanity is not only possible but essential. In my darkest moments, when the weight of societal expectations pressed heavily upon me, I encountered a love so profound that it shattered the illusions I had long upheld. Jesus illuminated the shadows of deception that permeate our world, revealing the spiritual war that rages not just within our hearts, but across our communities. This isn't just my battle. It is a collective struggle for freedom from manipulation, a call for every seeker to stand up and fight against the chains of ignorance that bind us. Now, I turn to you. What truths have stirred within your soul? Have you experienced moments where you questioned everything, seeking answers that transcend the surface of belief? Share your stories in the comments below. I eagerly want to hear your insights and experiences. We must connect, for together we can amplify the light in this dark world. If this message resonates with your heart and you seek more revelations, don't forget to subscribe to Truth from Beyond and activate the notification bell. Each new video will unravel more layers of truth, empowering you to embrace the awakening that awaits. The road ahead is filled with challenging truths, but it is one worth walking together. In my next video, I will share the powerful testimony of another soul, one who also ventured into the shadows and emerged transformed by the light. Join me on this journey of awakening. Together we can illuminate the path for one another. I'm Ahmad, and thank you for being part of this gathering of seekers. Remember, in every challenge lies the potential for spiritual evolution. Let's embrace it together.